Hello, writers! I am feeling so excited as we get ready to launch the beginning of our new unit, our fiction unit. Now, before we get going, it's important that we understand what fiction is. So just like we took some time to understand what a small moment story is, we're going to take some time to understand what a fiction text is. And I want you to think in your brain about kindergarten when you heard about fiction texts and nonfiction texts. What do you think a fiction text is? I think a fiction text is, I think fiction means turn and talk. A lot of you had some great ideas, some great thinking and remembering from kindergarten about what fiction means, about what a fiction book or a fiction text is. Let's read a fiction book together and then talk about what we notice a fiction book has and does. Peter's Chair by Ezra Jack Keats. Peter stretched as high as he could. There, his tall building was finished. Crash! Down it came. Shh, called his mother. You'll have to play more quietly. Remember, we have a new baby in the house. Peter looked into his sister Susie's room. His mother was fussing around the cradle. That's my cradle, he thought, and they painted it pink. Hi, Peter, said his father. Would you like to help paint Sister's high chair? It's my high chair, whispered Peter. He saw his crib and muttered, My crib. It's painted pink, too. Not far away stood his old chair. They didn't paint that yet, Peter shouted. He picked it up and ran to his room. Let's run away, Willie, he said. Peter filled a shopping bag with cookies and dog biscuits. We'll take my blue chair, my toy crocodile, and the picture of me when I was a baby. Willie got his bone. They went outside and stood in front of his house. This is a good place, said Peter. He arranged his things very nicely and decided to sit in his chair for a while. But he couldn't fit in his chair. He was too big. His mother came to the window and called, Won't you come back to us, Peter dear? We have something very special for lunch. Peter and Willie made believe they didn't hear, but Peter got an idea. Soon his mother saw signs that Peter was home. That rascal is hiding behind the curtain, she said happily. She moved the curtain away, but he wasn't there. Here I am, shouted Peter. Peter sat in a grown-up chair. His father sat next to him. Daddy, said Peter, let's paint the little chair pink for Susie. And they did. Writers, Peter's Chair is a fiction story. It's fake. There is no real Peter. This isn't based on a true story. It's fake. That's what makes it fiction. Fiction means fake. Non-fiction means not fake. So let's think about this fake story, this fiction story. What did you notice this fiction story had in it? I noticed, turn and talk. All right. I am sure you said that you noticed that this fiction text had characters in it. All fiction texts have characters. Fiction texts have characters. Who are the characters in Peter's Chair? Let's think. There was the main character, Peter. We know he's the main character because the whole book is about him, right? So there's Peter. There was Peter's dog. That looks like more like a cat than a dog. There, that will help. There was, let's see, what other characters? Oh, there was Peter's mom and his dad and his baby sister, right? Those were the characters in Peter's chair. You might have also noticed that fiction texts always have a problem and a solution. What was the problem in Peter's chair? Do you remember when Peter saw his mom and dad painting, giving all that attention to his sister? First, he had to be quiet when he was playing because of his sister. Then, he saw his mom with his sister, and they had painted his crib pink. Then, they were painting his high chair pink. That was the problem, right? He was jealous of his baby sister because she was getting all of the attention, or so he thought. So the problem was that he was jealous of his sister. She was getting time, her parents' time, and all of his old things. So that was the problem. What was the solution? How did Peter solve the problem? Do you remember after he decided to steal his old chair and run away with his dog? Do you remember what he discovered? He didn't fit in his chair. This is the part where Peter realizes that maybe he's being silly. What does it matter that he keeps his old things when he's too big for them? He's able to sit in a grown-up chair with his mom and dad. So in the end, Peter solves the problem by realizing that he doesn't need to be jealous of his sister. He can still have time with his mom and dad. It just looks a little bit different. And so he suggests that he and his dad paint the little chair pink for Susie. So the problem is solved when Peter paints the chair pink with his dad, and he realizes that he doesn't need to be jealous anymore. He was jealous, and then he was not jealous. What else did you notice about fiction texts? Maybe you noticed that all fiction texts have 3 parts. They have a beginning. Remember what happened in the beginning of the story when Peter was playing with his blocks and then they crashed to the floor and his mom tells him, "Shh, remember, your sister's sleeping." Remember that? So that happened in the beginning. Peter is playing with blocks, and when they crash to the floor, his mom reminds him to be quiet. So we'll make a crash sound to remind us of what happens in the beginning. After the beginning is the middle of the story. Do you remember what happens in the middle of the story? Peter gets jealous of his sister, looking at his mom spending time, and his dad painting everything pink for his little sister. So in the middle, he becomes jealous of his sister. So we're going to put a heart with jealous in it. His heart is jealous. And so he runs away with his dog, right? He steals his chair and he runs away in the middle. But in the end, the last part of all fiction stories, he realizes that that chair is too small. And he and his dad work together to paint the chair pink for his little sister. So all fiction texts have characters. They all have problems and solutions, and they all have a beginning, middle, and end. So writers, as we get ready to write our own fiction texts, today we're going to start by exploring some published authors and their fiction texts, and we're going to practice thinking like an author, and finding their characters, their problem and solution, and their beginning, middle, and end.